Okay, we are live.
We are live.
And it's
I've just
Gerald's
moved my
first.
microphone. It is.
Mhm.
It is. So shall we? Well, I'm just giving it time to, because sometimes it doesn't.
There's been time.
That's it. Okay.
I didn't do
Pause.
the bit.
No, you didn't, you little devil. This is Literary Roadhouse. One short story once a week. My name's Gerald.
My name is Andy.
And I'm an ace.
And this week we have been reading A French Doll by Cynthia Ozick. If you haven't read the story yet, please pause the podcast, go and read it. And it's only about 3,500 words. And come back and rejoin the podcast. The story centers around an unnamed 12-year-old girl living with her mom in a 5-story walk-up. One of the other apartments belonging to an Isidore Atlas has strange piano music coming from it, and rumors about the residents abound. One day, Isidore dies, leaving his wife Frida. Frida befriends our main character, asking her to collect groceries and so on, inviting her in, where she showed our main character a doll. It was both beautiful and repellent, but its main feature was a fake piano kept locked inside its empty torso. When the arms were tugged lightly, peculiar music emanated from within. Frida said this music was stolen from her husband, who used to perform for the silent cinemas, stolen and encapsulated within this toy. One day, the old woman dies, and the neighbors all descended like locusts on the apartment. Our main character's mother brought out the music box from within the doll, but it no longer played.
Okay. And just there might be some purring and squeaking in the background. New kitten.
Yes, not me.
Is the purring very loud? She's kind of by the microphone.
Nah,
Okay.
it's fine.
Okay.
And even if it was, it would be fine.
Yeah, because she's so
Who doesn't
cute.
like-
She
who
doesn't want to
doesn't
be
like-
ignored. She starts squeaking
Yeah.
and trying to climb up me. Okay.
Who doesn't
So,
like a cat? Yes.
what did you guys think of the story overall?
Well, it's kind of a weird story. I wrote enticing and fascinating, lovely language, colourful prose, great description. Not sure what I learned. The fact that it sort of, I can't remember that much about it other than my comments showed it didn't really stay with me. But I remember it was slightly strange,
Mm-hmm.
but not a bad story.
Andy, what did you think?
I don't know. Maybe I'm feeling jaded. I perhaps am feeling jaded of late. Where it was a lovely story, and I'm like, what do you? Is it like a critique of copyright law? Is it talking about death and loss? Like, I don't know. I don't care. It didn't do enough of the thing to make me like, but it was really good to read. It didn't do anything extra to stick with me.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm coming in someplace similar, which is it felt like the author wanted to write about artistic theft,
Right?
and then the story on its own, aside from this theme, feels a little bit like, I mean, it's a short story, so you give it some licenses you might not to like a full novel, but it just didn't grip enough. There just wasn't enough of a why. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is a shame because the writing's great. Yeah, it was very colorful. I like the first time you walk into the apartment, the way that it's described, especially with like the child's eyes. Like you kind of already as an adult are picturing it as a bit faded, but it takes a child a while to like notice that it's not a magical place. That it's just kind of like an elderly couple's old home.
Home on the Range was composed by Daniel E. Kelly.
Okay.
America the
Wow,
Beautiful
my
was
outro
written
is
by
tell us who
Catherine Lee
composed Home
Bates.
on the Range, but now Andy already did it.
It's not hard to find out. So I don't know why we're posing these existential questions. They're like, I don't know, I'll Google it real quick. No, it's Daniel
Let's
Kelly
just pre-Google.
on the violin.
Mm-hmm.
So it was in a book, so they had to go to the library. It's still written. It's
Yeah.
known. It's known data. Datum? What's the singular?
Data.
I think you do want the plural because it's multiple people who compose them questions.
All right.
Data.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Yeah. And then
I'm glad we solved it.
yeah. So then for that reason, since it's like kind of about artistic theft, the fact that it's from a child's point of view is kind of in service of that, because you'd be having a very different conversation with another adult about it. So it makes Frida feel a bit scarier, creepier. Maybe not a hugely different conversation, but like different enough where it's like the fact that she's a kid and she's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this, kind of adds to I think like what the reader's supposed to, because I think the reader's also like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this at the same time. Where like if it's an adult character, you're supposed to kind of get to the and now what, right? There's like that aspect of it a little bit. But it just it didn't get me to care too much, which is a shame. Maybe it's more about me. Like
no, okay. I think we're all of a similar mind, really. It never really. I think we sort of quite liked, it's good writing. I think we quite liked what it was trying to do, but it didn't really punch hard enough at what it was trying to do. As Andy said, it didn't do enough of the things, and I think also that I think it's good to have a child and an old person, because there's quite a lot of simpatico between older people, like very old people, and young children. They're almost of a sort of similar nature and similar mind.
Yeah,
although
that's why we have the podcast set up like this with Gerald and Anais.
Okay, all right, here we go. I'm not that young anymore. When we started, anyway. Yeah.
Well, I'm a year older than I was on Friday, so there we are.
Oh my goodness, a whole year since Friday?
A whole year, yeah. It's frightening, really. Well, it isn't frightening. It's just the same. It's just the same. Few more grey hairs, but we're not talking about me. We're talking about the story.
But I do feel like I can't dig in deep enough. One of the things that I thought might be interesting, but then it didn't do enough with it, was that the doll and Frida are dressed the same.
Yep.
Like that seemed interesting, but then it didn't really go anywhere. I guess it's like this, like Frida's hollowed out like the doll because of this thing, but it didn't go anywhere.
Right. It had a lot of stuff. There was a lot of stuff in it, and it was good looking stuff. And there were fun little pieces, but then they were just sort of like set out in front of me, as if to say, look at all these fun little pieces. And like, I fully agree. Those are fun little pieces, but like,
and sometimes that's enough. Like I recently read This Is How You Lose the Time War, and it's a bit of that. This is how you lose the time war. Like at one point it feels like Mad Libs. It's a lot of just like everything's coming at you real fast. Sci-fi and magic blended together. They're basically gods. Woo! There's like tons of stuff. And it was enough because at least those pieces felt like an experience in and of itself. So this had a lot of pieces, but it didn't quite then tip over to that either. Where like just the pieces, like sometimes just the kaleidoscopes is enough to sustain, but it didn't quite get there either.
Yes, the tiny pieces are like tiny dolls representing people. But there are lots of lovely pieces that look like they're going to go somewhere and look like it's that sort of tantalizing, almost semi door into the deeper story. And you open the door and there's just a blank wall behind it. So nope, nothing there. But it's a nice door.
It's a good door. It's solid.
It's a good door. Yay. Very artistic.
At the end, she gets the music box, but it's functionless once removed from the doll.
Yes.
I mean, in that case, it's that like the way that the music removed from the composer is missing something, right? Like
yes,
yeah.
Yes, but you still have the so I think that you still have the music. I think you could, I don't know, maybe you could do something else with it, something a bit sort of cleverer, because the music is still there. It should still be there. And the connection to the composer and the creator is gone. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe they're saying it should be. You shouldn't be able to play it without the creator, perhaps. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
but
what
that's
it
not.
is.
That's. I don't think that's what Frida
Yeah.
and Isidore would have wanted either. I think they would have wanted royalties from this doll, right? Like
Right.
that's.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely make a doll out of my song. And then,
Yeah.
And they want credit and money for it,
Right.
which fair
Ooh.
enough. But yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I do feel kind of bad that like. Yeah. So we hadn't recorded in a while. I was traveling, and he got married. There was all kinds of stuff going on, and so I had read this ahead of when we thought we were going to record almost 2 months ago. Like
Yeah,
we've
right.
had a bit of a break, and I had to reread it because I'd forgotten so much of it because it doesn't stick with you. Which is I should have reread it anyway. It had been almost 2 months, but then when I reread it, I had the same feeling of just like,
Right.
Which and I did read the interview with the author, which normally because the New Yorker does that, normally that helps add some context to it, but it still felt like yeah, I guess it's just too surface. I feel bad because the writing's so good, so you want it to be more than it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like I'm just repeating myself at this point.
Yeah.
Well, right, because it's a nice story that mostly exists on the same level.
And it doesn't take you on any emotional journey either. So it didn't have a fun kaleidoscope. It didn't have an emotional journey to it. And even the artistic theft aspect, it didn't take you to a place where it feels like, I guess you're supposed to feel bad. Here's this artist, he's composed music, but like you don't get enough about who this musician was or what he composed to know if you should like be feeling that bad. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there was like, but well, what did he do? How did he get paid? What was their life like? Like you don't get a full sense of who these people are to really know. Yeah, to like attune your sympathies.
Yeah, and they die, and you feel like you should feel some emotion connected with that, but because they're not the main character, they're this secondary characters, and so therefore you there is the writer hasn't created, as you say, any hooks to enable you to hang your emotion onto, to feel anything about them dying and just leaving stuff behind, and apart from a musical legacy, it can't be played. So and there's certainly no emotion as far as the child is concerned. I don't think there's
And maybe that's it. Maybe we're supposed to meditate on why we don't care that much, but like maybe that's like, why don't I care? But but is it because of the subject matter that I don't care, and that's a failing of me, or is it because the story didn't quite get me there? Both.
I think the latter. I think it's. I mean, I know Andy said he felt a little bit jaded, and I think probably because it doesn't grab us enough. It doesn't grab us and do anything with us. And yeah, there's no jeopardy. There's no. It's just sort of a very well written, sort of trundling da-di-da-di-da song. Interesting, interesting story. Interesting story, and I like the characters in it. So I think they're interesting. I think the setting is interesting. A little bit dull. You know, we're down on the sort of you know, the misery memoir type stories, and isn't life terrible, and look at this. So the setting is a bit like that, poor people and that sort of thing.
But it doesn't quite read to me like a misery memoir.
No, I didn't mean that. I just meant it's the location would be the setting for something.
Well, and I guess there's not a lot of contrast. And like, obviously, I don't want to. It's a short story, but there's still not a lot of contrast even for a short story, right? We open with the old man dying, and then meet his very old wife for a little while, and then she dies. And in between, it's a sad story about the loss of ownership of the music, and then the loss of ownership with the doll. Like, it's all kind of the same note throughout.
Yeah, and the fact that the music has been lost there's no emotion there either. There's no sort of that doesn't seem any feeling of loss of the music, like she wished that she could have the music, or she was desperate to have that, or something, something a bit more to drive their emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like the end is supposed to punch, but it doesn't really have any sort of punch attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like as if that was supposed to punch on its own and it needed some other emotional weight hanging with it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, another thing got lost. Okie doke. And
Yeah.
it's done now.
Yeah. And it was also like, we've read short stories before that don't really have a conflict and it can pull it off. But this one, I don't know. Because the point of view character, the protagonist, isn't striving for anything really.
And I think that's one of the problems of writing a child as your main character is that, we were just talking about this last week, our little grandson who's only two years old and lives completely in the moment, has no worries or cares, or plays with something and then doesn't play with something. It's all of the moment. So the thing about a child is that they have no responsibilities, they have no development of the anxieties that grown-ups have, and the pressures on them. So it's very difficult, I think, to create that in a child, especially in a short story.
Yeah, though a 12-year-old would have more ambitions and forward-looking than like a 2-year-old. Like I could see a story hanging on a 12-year-old, but in this particular one, there just wasn't anything really happening.
No.
Are we ready to rate?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I'm coming in at a 3.
Ooh. I'll come in at a 4 because it's nicely written and it's sort of interesting. Yes.
Sort of interesting.
I don't mean that. Don't quote me.
Damning
Put
with
that as
8
a
praise.
review
Okay.
on Amazon or something.
Damning praise.
Yeah.
Sort of interesting.
It is sort of interesting, yes.
All right. Andy?
I was really trying to think if I was going to come in at a 3 or a 4. A lesser person might give it a 3.5.
Yes.
Some sort of person who can't commit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to give it a 3.
Hey.
But like I was tempted.
Maybe you should just give it 1s or 6s. I mean, that'd be
Nothing else.
Yes. You could do that.
But like not split the difference. It's either a 6 or if it fails to be a 6, 1.
It must be a 1. Yeah.
It was a story like every other story.
Okay. Andy, what are we reading next week?
Next week, we are reading Window Boy by Thomas Ha.
Okay. But before you go, tell us who composed Home on the Range. Was Andy right? Because I'm not changing it. I'm sick. I can't think right now. Was Andy right?
Someone else composed the lyrics.
Okay, who composed the lyrics to Home on the Range? Let us know in our Facebook discussion group, the Literary Roadhouse Readers. Do you want to read about more creepy dolls and their creepier owners? Keep this podcast going by leaving a review of Literary Roadhouse wherever you get your podcast, or supporting us on patreon.com/Literary Roadhouse. Every bit helps. And as always, share this podcast with the elderly couple who just barely don't hate children in your life. Until next time, read a good story.
Very good.